Speaker, earlier this week, the Majority Leader and a number of his colleagues took to the floor to defend the President's health care law and to tout provisions they believe to be popular with the public. What they didn't do was allow a vote on the entirety of the bill, which proves to be even more of a disaster with each passing day, and which a majority of Americans continue to vigorously oppose. Put another way, Senate Democrats spent nearly an entire day talking about parts of Obamacare that poll well, but refused to spend 15 minutes being caught on camera voting to uphold the entire law. What are they afraid of? Why won't they allow a vote? When the health care bill was working its way through Congress, you will recall that former Speaker of the House, Pelosi, famously said we need to pass the bill to find out what was in it. Well, now that we've had some time to study its consequences, I can't think of any reason why senators wouldn't want to stand up and be counted with a vote on the floor, either for or against repeal. Does Obamacare get a passing grade or not? That's all I asked for on Tuesday, a vote to either reaffirm or repudiate the votes we all took on Obamacare based on everything. No.
Sherman. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the gentleman from North Carolina for yielding time to me this evening. And Mr. Speaker, I rise today to commend my fellow colleagues in the House for their leadership, for their vision, for their votes today to strengthen the U.S.-Africa economic and trade relations. Passage of H.R. 5986 will also solidify the U.S. Long-term investment in Africa. I want to commend my colleagues for voting to extend AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act. And I would also like to applaud all of those advocates who worked tirelessly to pass H.R. 5986, the long overdue extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, including the third country fabric provision as a part of AGOA. This third country fabric provision will enable eligible countries in sub-Saharan Africa to ship thousands of goods to the United States without paying import duties. This provision, which had been set to expire this September, on September the 30th, waives the duties on clothing for most AGOA countries, even if the yarn or the fabric is made in a, quote, third country, in a quote, such as China, South Korea, or Vietnam. With passage of this important legislation, the soaring jobs for hundreds of thousands of African workers will be protected and also created. The first beneficiaries for this bill will be the women of Africa, because about 70 to 80% of the workers in this burgeoning apparel and textile industries are women. Mr. Speaker, when the women are working, families are fed, and stability is a result. I am so pleased, Mr. Speaker, that once again AGOA will become the law and that the President will sign this law in the near future. Next, Mr. Speaker, I stand in this House well today to send my deepest sympathies and the sympathies of the people of the 1st Congressional District of Illinois, to send our prayers to the Ghanaian people and to the family of the recently departed President John Allen Mills, the President of Ghana, the late President of Ghana. His death is a terrible loss, not only for Ghana and its people, but for the entire world. Mr. Speaker, President Allen Mills was a tremendous leader. He solidified the foundation for peace and prosperity in the nation of Ghana, creating confidence in the Ghanaian political, social, and economic system that led to massive foreign direct investments in Ghana, which resulted in the creation of millions of jobs for the Ghanaian people. He will be greatly missed. I want to also congratulate His Excellency Mr. John Dramani Mahama, Ghanaia's new leader of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, the peaceful transition of power in Ghana clearly demonstrates that Ghana has embarked into an unwavering path and process for democracy and the democratic principles we all hold near and dear. Within hours of the passing away of the President, the late President John Allen Mills, the Vice President was sworn in as the new President. The political violence that we witnessed after the passing of President Umaru Yadari of Nigeria and President Bingu wa Mutharika of Malawi simply did not occur. This, Mr. Speaker, is evidence, sure evidence, that Ghana's democratic institutions are viable and getting stronger, much stronger, day by day. This just did not happen. It took strong leadership from the previous presidents of Ghana in order to lay the right foundation for this smooth transition of power in Ghana over the last week. People like former President Jerry Rawlings, who was elected in 1996. And lest we not forget, Mr. Rawlings' party lost with a narrow margin, but he didn't try to fight and hold back the willful decision of the Ghanaian people. He conceded the election without any controversy. I also commend former President John Kufuor for his strong stance in support of the Ghanaian Democratic March, the principles and the democratic values that we cherish here in the United States. It is for these reasons that I stand here today to commend the Ghanaian people, the Ghanaian leadership, and the Ghanaian institutions for their stable, forward-thinking, and mature leadership, and I commend them all this evening. Mr. Speaker, on my final note before this body, I rise today to also urge this Congress to pass H.Con.Res Resolution 121, a resolution to save the Niger Delta region, which is located in Nigeria. Over the last few years and months, a lot has been said, a lot has been written about the Niger Delta crisis that is occurring right now in Nigeria as we speak. Just about a year ago, the United Nations Environment Program released a report, a startling report, but a report calling for an urgent response to reverse the environmental destruction and devastation in the Ogoni land region of the Niger Delta wetlands. That report, again startling, intense, and accurate. It also called for the establishment of a $1 billion cleanup fund to finance the restoration and the cleanup of the Niger Delta region. Mr. Speaker, to give you some perspective on the scope of the destruction and of the devastation, it is estimated that the cleanup of the Niger Delta could take as many as 30 years to complete. Of course, Mr. Speaker, strong voices have begun to emerge and strong actions have taken place to do more to publicize these environmental atrocities. Just recently, I watched a movie directed by a brilliant Nigerian-born filmmaker whose name is Jeddah Amata. It was a movie entitled and I quote, Black November, the struggle of the Niger Delta, end of quote. And this movie raises the awareness of the tragedy of the Niger Delta and the Niger region. Black November, the movie, is based upon the true story of the people of the Niger Delta, the communities in the Niger Delta that suffer extreme environmental degradation and extreme poverty in this, the oil-rich Niger Delta region. Mr. Speaker, the people of this nation, we cannot, the American people cannot remain indifferent to the struggle of the people of the Niger region, the Niger Delta, as they struggle to clean up the pollution created by mostly American and other Western oil and petroleum companies. Most of the Niger Delta's 31 million people live on less than $1 a day, although this region is the very backbone of Nigeria's economy, with oil and gas extractions accounting for over 97% of Nigeria's foreign exchange revenues. The Niger Delta region, which consists of 9 states, make up about 12% of Nigeria's total land masses. And it is one of the world's 10 most important wetland and coastal marine ecosystems. Mr. Speaker, the social unrest, the criminality, the illegal oil trade, the bunkering, and the general corruption have hindered oil and gas investment and production, as well as the Niger Delta region's development. Mr. Speaker, these numbers are alarming. The World Conservation Union and the representatives from the Nigerian federal government and the Nigerian Conservation Foundation calculated that in the year 2006, that up to 1.5 million tons of oil had been spilled in the Niger Delta over the last 50 years. 1.5 million tons. That is 50 times. That's right. 50 times, Mr. Speaker, the pollution unleashed in the Exxon-Valdez tanker disaster in Alaska a few years ago. This pollution, this oil spill, this devastation has severely limited the local inhabitants' access to clean water, and has largely destroyed the fishing stock that the majority of the Delta inhabitants depended upon to make their daily living. A result also has been that illegal oil and gas refineries have become a source of income for these poor people who have unfortunately diverted their activities from fisheries destroyed by the oil spills. Illicit oil trade and illegal refineries are booming, and they are consequently threatening the economy and the security and the environment of this very vital region in the world. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, or just importantly, in too many of the communities in the Niger region, people drink water from wells that are contaminated with benzene, which is a known carcinogen. They drink this water, which has been estimated to be 900 times above the level that the World Health Organization uses as its guideline, 900 times above the standards set by the World Health Organization. Since 2010, Nigeria has become one of our main strategic partners on the continent of Africa. This nation, Nigeria, is our nation's second leading trading partner behind Great Britain. Mr. Speaker, these and other facts means that the struggle of the people of the Niger Delta, the struggle of the Nigerian people, is also the American people. They're our struggle, the struggle of the American people. Mr. Speaker, the destiny of the two economies, the Nigerian economy and the American economy, are interconnected, interrelated, and intertwined. We cannot, and I emphasize, this nation cannot afford to stay indifferent to the struggles of the people of the Niger Delta and to the cleanup of the pollution that has been devastating this region for over the past 50 years. The struggle of the people of the Niger Delta is indeed our struggle, the struggle of the American people. I have led and with co-signers have introduced H.Con. Resolution 121 to urge all the stakeholders in the Niger Delta oil and gas industry to come together, to work together, to collaborate together, and to address collectively the environmental impact of the oil and gas production in the Niger Delta. I must say, Mr. Speaker, that we should commend this Congress, and I certainly commend President Goodluck Jonathan for presenting the new petroleum industry bill the PIB to the Nigerian Parliament, which has the support of all these stakeholders and had the input of all the stakeholders. And I also want to commend President Goodluck Jonathan for announcing the creation of a hydrocarbon pollution restoration project, HYPREP, to look into the Ogoniland degradation, destruction, and devastation from the aforementioned oil spills. I applaud President Goodluck Jonathan for taking these initiatives. These are very important, critical first steps. And it is my hope that all of the affected stakeholders will again come and meet again soon and collaborate strongly together to make the cleanup and to make the rebuilding of the Niger region become a success story that the world will admire and that the world will celebrate. The new energy regulatory framework that's being created must be fair, it must be transparent, and it must create an appropriate avenue for the economic empowerment for the local Niger Delta communities affected by the industry, including the women and the youth. Mr. Speaker, we cannot stand by. We must assist in this effort. The clock is ticking. We must support the people of the Niger Delta. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the remaining of the time to Mr. Brad Sherman.
The gentleman yields back. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5, 2011, the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman, controls the remainder of the hour.
I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the unique and essential work being done by Chabad. Chabad is known by many for its annual telethon. Where else on the TV dial can one go to see dancing rabbis once a year? But Chabad is better known for meeting the spiritual needs of millions, for meeting the economic and counseling needs of thousands who are faced with destitution or faced with the scourge of substance abuse. I would like to extend my regards to Rabbi Kunin and the entire Kunin family for their tireless efforts on behalf of Chabad and Yiddishkeit everywhere. For decades, I've had a chance to work with Rabbi Morty Embinder and Rabbi Joshua Gordon and all the rabbis of Chabad of the San Fernando Valley, an organization that has grown from one storefront to now 25 centers of vibrant communities dedicated to worship and to study across the San Fernando Valley. Chabad does hugely important work for the local community. They have taken a commercial-grade kitchen and turned it into a one-stop social service center to feed and care for thousands. And Chabad's drug prevention and treatment program, Pride, reaches thousands of at-risk youth in the San Fernando Valley and across the Los Angeles area. For the last decade I've worked with Chabad to achieve something very important to the Jewish people, the return from Russia of the Rebbe's papers. The Schneerson Library and Archives are of such importance, sacredness to Chabad and to many others, and yet they are still held in Moscow by the Russian regime. This Congress passed Jackson-Vanik, and there's discussion of us changing that important law to allow for Russian goods to be sold in the United States more freely. But Jackson Vanig's purpose was to force Russia to let our people go. And that process will not, in my mind, be complete until Russia lets the Rebbe's papers go as well. So I look forward to Russia releasing those spiritually important documents. And I look forward to working with all the Chabad rabbis on issues from Moscow to the San Fernando Valley. L'chaim.
The gentleman yields back. Under the Speaker's announced policy of